Welcome to the Criminal Law and Procedure Lecture Series. At the end of each slide, there will be a 10-second delay. Use this time to stop the lecture and take your notes. When you are done, push play to continue. This lecture will begin in 5 seconds. Welcome to Criminal Law and Procedure Lecture 1.2 on the Introduction to Criminal Law and Procedure, and I ask, what is the study of crime? What do you mean, what is the study of crime? Crime is crime, right? Well, let's put that theory to the test and look at my favorite criminal act, graffiti. You see, it's illegal to be a graffiti artist in Virginia. Code of Virginia section 18.2-137 clearly states, if any person unlawfully defaces without the intent to steal any property, real or personal, not his own, he shall be guilty of a class 3 misdemeanor. Bam! End of story, right? Well, is it? I mean, what happens when we catch one of these people? Who's going to arrest them? The police? Do the police need to follow certain rules? Do these people get a trial? And where are they going to go to jail? How about this? Why do we always seem to find graffiti on the sides of subway cars and highway overpasses? What is it about these places that make them so enticing for graffiti artists? Moreover, here's a piece of graffiti by Bansky. It's famous. And here's a piece of graffiti, a tag by a criminal gang. It's infamous. Are they both considered graffiti under the Code of Virginia? And why were they made in the first place? So the study of crime is quite large, and what we're going to do today is narrow the focus so that we know exactly what we will learn this year in criminal law and procedure. With that said, go to the next slide. Defining the study of crime can be tricky, but defining the term crime itself is straightforward. Crime is defined as an act or the commission of an act that is forbidden, or the omission of a duty that is commanded by a public law and that makes the offender liable to punishment by that law. In other words, this is the state telling its people, don't do it. Don't do that prohibited act, because if you do, you will be held accountable by the state. A pretty straightforward idea that takes 5 different fields of study to understand. So let's look at the fields of study that we will not cover this year and the fields of study that we will cover. There are 3 fields of study dealing with crime that we do not cover in this class. Criminology is the scientific study of crime as a social phenomenon, of criminals, and of penal treatment. In other words, this is where we ask, why does crime occur, and what can we do to stop it? Criminal justice is the set of agencies and processes established by governments to control crime and impose penalties on those who violate laws. Here we look at the police, the trial courts, and the penal system, jails and prisons. Finally, we have criminal psychology. That is the branch of psychology which investigates the psychology of crime with particular reference to the personality factors of the criminal. Now we are asking, why do certain people commit crimes? Go to the next slide. We may talk about criminology, criminal justice, and criminal psychology this year, but they are not the focus of our study. Instead, there are 2 fields of study dealing with crime that we do cover in this class. Criminal law involves prosecution by the government of a person for an act that has been classified as a crime. For example, it is illegal to be a graffiti artist in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it is illegal to do a whole lot of other stuff as well, like murder, genocide, arson, burglary, computer crimes, and a whole list of other criminal laws that we'll look at this year. Then there's criminal procedure. That deals with the set of rules governing the series of proceedings through which the government enforces substantive criminal laws. What does that mean? Well, How do we go about investigating, arresting, trying, and putting someone in jail who has violated the criminal law? It'll be through these two fields of study that we will refine our analytical thinking abilities, our ability to think like a lawyer. Go to the next slide. Let's start talking about criminal law by looking at two basic principles. The first principle you learned about last year, that's the difference between statutes versus case law. Criminal statutes set forth the elements that need to be proven in order to find a defendant guilty of committing a crime, and these criminal statutes are specific. For example, here's our graffiti statute. In order for the Commonwealth to find you guilty of being a graffiti artist, they need to prove that you unlawfully defaced any property, real or personal, not your own, and not with the intent to steal it. If the Commonwealth can't prove all four of those things, you cannot be found guilty of being a graffiti artist. Here's the thing. You'll learn next class about a 5-step analysis that you can apply to all criminal laws. Pretty simple, yeah? Well, not so much, because there's some questions we need to ask ourselves, like, how do I unlawfully deface something? Or, what is the difference between real and personal property? Or even, what intent do I actually need to violate the law? That's where judges step in. Judicial opinions apply a specific set of facts to a criminal law, thereby explaining the criminal law. It's up to the judiciary to apply facts to this law, and in doing so, they will explain exactly what needs to be proven in order for you to be found guilty of a crime. Go to the next slide. Our second basic principle requires us to learn a little Latin. We're going to talk about mala in se versus mala prohibita crimes. Mala in se crimes, or malum in se in the singular, are wrong or evil in themselves, or actions society recognizes are inherently bad, like murder. Everybody knows that murder is inherently bad, and we've known that for at least 5,300 years. Hammurabi, the Prince of Babylon, stated, if the wife of one man on account of another man has their mates, her husband and the other man's wife, murdered, both of them shall be impaled. This is the world's first murder for hire statute, and murder is not the only malum in se crime. In fact, most of the second tablet of the Ten Commandments is codified or written into modern Virginia law. Murder, adultery, stealing, and bearing false witness are all considered mala in se crimes. Mala prohibita crimes, or malum prohibitum in the singular, are wrong or prohibited acts or actions society does not recognize as inherently bad, but are nevertheless criminalized. Things like being a graffiti artist, being drunk in public, and swearing in public. Thank you for watching this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in class.